What is going on, collective? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Adam Raw. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I started the video, but guess what? My hands was ashy. I had to find some things. Everything was going wrong, so guess what? I had to turn the video off, start over. All right, cool, bad. All right, so today I want to do something different here today. In terms of like messages and stuff like that I got, or downloads and stuff that I got, everything appears to be going smoothly. It's for the most part, God is pleased with the kingdom. Continue to do your good works, continue to do your deeds, continue to go forth and prosper. It's definitely time to, like, whatever gift or whatever gift or ability that you have, now is the best time for you to use that to expand the kingdom in your own little way. Okay, there's no concrete way. If some people, they like to, especially like, some people, we all got different gifts, I should say. And by us all having different gifts, you got some people who are, let's say, some people are artists or whatever, or, whatever, and just use your ability. Use your gifts and your abilities to, enhance the kingdom, bring things in, or even just tell your testimony or your story. So when I was in spiritual warfare or whatever, one thing that I had to do is I had to learn a lot of stuff, and had to learn a lot of stuff quickly, right? And essentially a part of that was learning how to apply, take theoretical principles from the world and add it to spirituality. Okay. And today is definitely going to be about that. Okay. Let's see here. For those of you who are inclined to spirituality, especially those of you who use sigils and seals and things of that nature. So this next couple of videos is going to be breaking down like how, breaking down or making the connection between spirituality and mathematics. Okay, so it's going to be a combination of combining spirituality with alchemy, astrology, mathematics, a variety of different principles. Okay, I've always wanted to teach, honestly, and today I'm going to give my first lecture or whatever, right? So I'm going to start with the basically the Hermetic principles, right? We've heard about the Hermetic principles. We know how it go. Those of you who do know, you've heard about it. There's 7 laws. There's the law of the all is mind, the law of mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause, effect, and gender. Okay, all of these play a major role when it comes to spirituality. Matter of fact, these are probably the 7 laws of spirituality, especially if you're gonna, I would say the 7 laws of energetic manipulation. Okay, because essentially that's what spirituality is. It's learning how to manipulate the energy, the frequency, and vibration of the world around you. Now, essentially, our world is created of water, and when we think about it, our world is water. Okay, what we breathe is technically water. Okay, if you don't believe me, when you go into the sea and you go deep enough, which there are videos on YouTube, you will find another sea under the sea. So essentially what it means is that as we ascend up into the realm, the density decreases. Okay, so in this realm, the density of water is going to be H2O, right? When in our density or whatever, it's just O2. You know what I'm saying? It's just oxygen. Let's say O2. And when you go further up, it's like helium. You know what I'm saying? Or just hydrogen. You see what I'm saying? As we go further though, it could be like H2O2, hydroxide. You know what I'm saying? Hydrogen oxide. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what it is. The further we go down, the more dense the water particles become, essentially. So with that being said, for our magical beings, we all know that when we work with the element of water, we speak over the water. We put our hands in the water. The water is essentially very vital and important here, right? Now, that's what's going to lead to the law of mentalism. Now, you got 7 laws here, okay? One. Well, I don't know if you guys can see that now. Okay, yeah, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll just put 7 here, right? So you got 7 laws here, right? This law is going to be the very first one, and it's called mentalism. Essentially, what this means is that the all is mind, the mind is all. What your mind defines is what creates it. So for those people who wanted to get into tarot, they wanted to get into the magical arts, essentially, you can get into it. However, you have to understand the rules behind it. Understanding the rules behind it doesn't limit you. It actually gives you opportunity to expand your gifts into what it needs to be. So let's say with the law of mentalism, it says that the all is mind and the mind is all. Everything originates in the mind. If you could perceive it in your mind, you can create it. Essentially what this means. What is created in the mind is what molds the world around us, essentially, is what that means. So let's say if we go and we meet someone and we're talking to this person and they speak to us in a tone we don't like. In our minds, we don't like that. So in response, we act accordingly to how we perceive that. And essentially, how we perceive that is what's going to develop that relationship into what the end result of what we perceived it to be in the beginning. Basically put, if I perceive you to be, a threat, it doesn't matter what you say when we first initially meet. If my mind is that you're a threat when we first meet, I'm going to treat you as if you're a threat that I need to be cautious of, whether it's a fight, flight, or freeze response. As I get more information, it develops from there. Okay? But initially, that's what it is. So what does that mean? That means that when it comes to our psychic abilities, our psychic gifts, whatever you may be, especially those who always wanted to work with, the elements, right? There's people out here who can, you got people who read tarot. You got people out here who read fire. They can read earth, clouds, water, you name it. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything can be read. Okay, everything can be read. How does this work? Through the gate of mentalism. So essentially what happens here is just like with numerology. Okay, we're going to go to numerology. In numerology, when we see the number 1, we equate that number 1 to, a definition like leadership. Okay, we give the number 2 the definition of union. Okay, mentalism, the law of mentalism is all based around definition. So for if 1 means leadership and 2 means union, okay, now say this is how I see it. The way you see it might be different. If you see the number 1, you might think unity, all encompassing, right? If you see the number 2, you're going to think relationship, right? Now, when you program this system in your mind, right, it opens up a code. It unlocks something in your mind. It unlocks your code for the universe to talk to you. The universe loves to talk to us, right? So essentially what happens here is that when we see, let's say, and this is just this is just working with numbers, because essentially numbers are only symbols. That's all it is. We assign definition of those symbols to be, you know what I'm saying? So what we define, our definition of things, is what creates our world. If you want to understand or strip the power of something, it doesn't matter what it is in your life, you give it a definition and it breaks it down. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a problem. It could be a solution, whatever it may be. You break it down. You define it. If you want to add power and you want it to go in the opposite direction, you take away what it means and you leave it undefined. How does that work? I'm going to show you how to leave something undefined. So essentially, remember I told you that my perception of the number 1 is going to be leadership. My perception of number 2 is going to be union. Your perception may be unity and your perception may be relationship, right? Now, here's the thing. When you strip that energy, when you take it from the definition of one meaning unity or one meaning relationship, you reach out to the universe and you let the universe express to you, when you see this number 1, what are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to know? You see what I'm saying? And you give it time. Over time, you will start, every time you see the number 1, you're going to see an event, a person, a thing, whatever it may be, it's going to reoccur. You're going to see a reoccurrence tied to this number. Every time you see this number, you're going to see that reoccurrence. Whatever that reoccurrence is what you're going to assign that definition to be, or that's what it's going to be, right? That's just how we, when it comes to dream magic, interpretation of dream magic, that's how interpretations began. It's like we will see something in our dream, and then in the beginning we had to allow things to pass. We had to allow time to pass for it to reveal what it was to us. And then those who kept dream journals were the ones who were able to capture the wisdom behind that. In capturing that wisdom, we were able to create definitions, which led to our psychic, interpretation of our psychic abilities. So yes, you're capable of having psychic abilities. Everyone is capable of psychic ability. However, you have to program your mind to see it in this way, shape, and form. That's why on this channel you saw me experimenting with earth magic, fire magic, water magic, all these different ways of divination. At one point, I used paint, watercolors. I used, actually I had a set that I used watercolors on, and people were looking like, well, how did you get that out of this? It's through this system here. It's not just spiritual. It's logic, essentially, right? It's a combination of both, but it's knowing how to tap in and out of each one. Because the thing is that if you're in this world too long and you're trying to create definitions and redefine all this shit at once, 1, you're gonna forget it, first and foremost, and 2, you're going to get trapped in a world that you can't exist. You can't remove yourself from, which is not good for you. Okay. So here's the exercise here. This is what, if you are interested in creating or developing your psychic ability, no matter what it is, it could be tarot cards, it could be with fire, it could be with earth, it could be clouds, it can be water, it can be dirt, it could be the skin. I can even read my skin, which is weird. If it has a pattern to it, you can read it and divine off of it, as long as it has a pattern. Okay? Now, this is how the exercise works, okay? It's just like I told you before. You got 2 options here. 1, you can define everything, okay? When you define that, what it does, it creates a language. I know I spelled that wrong, and that's weird. I normally spell everything right. It creates a language for the universe to talk to you. When your spirit guides want to talk to you, they'll talk to you through this language. When you want to talk to the rest of the world, you know what I'm saying? This is all about receiving information here, right? It's all about reception. Now, if you want, now others, that's for some of you, you define it, right? Now for others, you can follow the undefined route. If you chose the undefined route, it is powerful However, it requires you to put your pride aside, put your ego aside, because the universe is going to reveal to you. It's going to reveal its language to you. You can ask the universe for anything in the world. Imagine the universe is like a giant library. You can ask for anything. Anything. And you reach out to it and you say, hey, you know what? Let's create a language together. Essentially is what this psychic gift, or is what it's truly about. It's you taking ownership of that Godsmanship energy in you. When God created you, he created you with the Esh HaKadesh, the spirit, his breath of life. Ein Sof Kadesh. He created you essentially just like him. We all see that in nature. You know, 2 deer have a deer baby. 2 gorillas have a gorilla baby. You know what I mean? So if God is our creator, what does that make us? Co-creators. Gods, essentially. But in order to get where you need to be in this realm, you need to take advantage of your gifts and your abilities. The law of mentalism is definitely a hands-on, it's definitely is an asset to your spiritual growth or your spiritual path. This can be correlated to anybody and anything, no matter who or what you believe, okay? What if you don't want to use numbers, right? What if you don't want to do this? You can also use, let's say for Christians, the Bible, right? Because I know you guys see me thumb through the Bible. Why? That's the reason why I start out each reading with the Bible verse. Because I'm asking the Most High God. I'm tapping into that undefined aspect by thumbing through the pages. Wherever I feel, wherever he tells me to stop is where you stop. Wherever you get an inkling to stop there, and you read the passage. And it'll tell you directly from God what he wants you to know, if you subscribe to the Lord. And it doesn't have to be a Bible. It could be any book, anywhere, with any language, even a math book, if you program your mind to read that language. So essentially with the law of mentalism, it's about reprogramming your mind. The mind is yours. The mind is all. The mind is a place of its own. It could create a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven. And that was a quote from a book called Paradise Lost, right? Now with the spirit, with mentalism, and I know with mentalism, I mean, with this lecture in general, you're going to get a whole lot of ideas. So definitely write down anything that you're thinking about, because when you revisit that, it's going to spark something in you that's going to enhance your connection to the Most High God or whoever you subscribe to, right? Now with the law of mentalism, basically it works in a 2-form factor. Now we can have our courage and believe in something, but our belief, and we have disbelief, okay? Hang on, let me. In mentalism, you have the belief side. This is what you believe. And then you have this side over here, which is what you don't believe, unbelief. Essentially, belief and unbelief are connected, right? And we would like to think of this as being a straight line, right? But essentially, no. In nature, there is no such thing as a straight line. The straight line is imaginary. So essentially with the world, with the universe, everything leads to and from each other, just like a figure 8. We see this in the 369 principle of Nikola Tesla. I'll explain that in a different lecture. But essentially, and I'm going to slide this on over because, okay, let's see. I want you to see this dot right here. I just want to slide it over. Because I was supposed to have turned it right into that. Matter of fact, let's do that. Let's just turn this right up in there. And we just going to hook it back around. Don't just ignore all of that. But anyway, this is the unbelief spectrum here. And I'm going to explain to you how this works. This is the maximum potential of our belief right here. There's 3 points to this belief side, and you have 3 points to the unbelief side, right? This belief side, this is where it's nominal. This is the peak right here. This is the highest potential of your belief. That's the purest form of it. Right here, this right here is the aspect where you're losing, you still believe, but you start losing certain aspects of that belief. The more you start losing more aspects of that belief, you start embracing the unbelief. You see what I'm saying? And then you hook back around, and the more you unbelieve, or the stronger your unbelief is, essentially your unbelief is going to lead you back into another belief, because unbelieving is technically a belief, and believing has a way of leading you to an unbelief. If that makes any sense. You know, it's complicated a little bit, but anyway, we'll hopefully you caught on to that. For those that's for, they'll catch on to it, right? Now, we like to think that everything meets in a center, and they collide in a center, but that's not true. Actually, there's a plane here, right? This side is going to come up and over, but from the top, we're only going to see it a certain kind of way, right? It's going to come this way, and then this one is going to come this way, but it's not going to intersect. It's going to go under this one and over. This one is going to go over, and this one is going to go under that one. So if you were to see that on the plane, like say this is the plane of existence, you're going to see it come up, and you're going to see it come down like this. And then you're going to see one come up this way, and it's going to come down this way and under this one and into this. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like having a something and twisting it. Like, let's say how you have this right here, and you just kind of like twist it. You know what I mean? So yes, essentially what mentalism is embracing the gradient of each. Because with mentalism, let's take something let's do temperature, right? You got hot on this side and you got cold on this side. This is one of my favorites because of how easy it is to explain, right? You got hot that leads to cold, you got cold that leads to hot. Some things are so hot that it feels cold. There's some things that are so cold that they feel hot. You see what I'm saying? So essentially what happens here, at what point does hot becomes cold? You can't pinpoint that one direction, can you? You just know that eventually that hot just loses its steam until eventually it becomes cold. Because by nature, cold consumes energy, is a bigger consumer of energy, okay? The hot is the biggest output of energy, but cold has the natural knack or ability to absorb energy best with, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to revisit that in a moment. But either way, at the end of the day, this spectrum itself is correlated to what? Temperature. That essentially is what the law of mentalism is all about. Everything in nature that we think are dual or has a duality, belief and unbelief, defined and undefined. When it comes to you and your spiritual gifts, or in, you know, using your mentalism with your spirituality, you have the belief and you have the unbelief. You have what you believe and what you don't believe, right? But in reality, it has to be, let's say, like a virtue. Whether it's a belief or unbelief, it's a virtue altogether, is what it is. Or you can even call it a moral or a moray. You see what I'm saying? That's what it's called. So, when it comes to you and your spiritual gifts, or when you do decide to tap in or create your system for reading, let's say sand, let's say reading water, let's say reading whatever it may be, whatever pattern you choose, right? Whenever it comes to that, whatever pattern you decide that you want to read, okay? Just know that there's going to be a duality. There's going to be the defined aspects of it and the undefined. But the undefined aspects of it is always going to be much powerful, because when we see something like this, we think what? One. But when you see something like this, what do you see? Some people see protection. Some people see healing. Some people see release. Some people see fire. Some people see demonic energy. Some people see angelic energy. Some people see a portal. Some people see a gateway. See, this is considered undefined because it's a symbol. It's symbolic. The number 1 is also symbolic, but our minds is trained to define it. You see? This can equal 1 too, because if you take all the aspects of nature, if you take the air, you take the earth, you take the fire, you take the water, you take the spirit, both active and passive spirits, and you combine them all together, you get oneness. You see what I'm saying? Oneness. This is still equivalent to this if you define it in the right way. You see what I'm saying? So, with the law of mentalism, this is probably my favorite principle, my favorite law, because it is not limited by anything, right? When it comes to the universe and the way that the universe works, it's like this. Figuratively speaking, we're going to say this is the universe itself, right? This is our universe. How much of this universe do we experience light? Let's say this right here represents all the light that's in the universe, right? This is all our light. And all of this here is our darkness. When we think of darkness, we think of undesired. When we think of light, we think of all-encompassing. We think of love and all this other stuff, right? But I'm going to break it down to you when it comes to the law of mentalism, how this works, okay? So with the law of mentalism, you have active and you have passive energies, right? Active and passive. Matter of fact, let me write it down here so you can see it. Active energy and you have passive energy. You have far more passive energy in the universe than you do active energy. As proof, active energy in the form of light. Active energy is going to be your light, right? How much activity of light do you see in the universe? We see the sun, we see the stars, you see all these stars out there, right? But there is far more darkness in the universe than there is light from the stars, right? The mind works the same way. There are far more ideas that we have, far more concepts that we can create, so much imagination in our minds, right? So much. We can perceive all kind of stuff if you use your mind the right way. So much. But there's only so much that we act on, right? That active energy, what we act on is our light. That is what decides what gradient of light that we are. This darkness here, this is the passive energy. It's passive. Okay? Because it's passing through. Darkness, there's far more darkness than there is light. But the reason why we perceive light to be the strongest is because of its active force. We can see it. However, darkness is just as powerful in its own way. It's kind of like a family where the father, you have a masculine and a feminine in the family. I have to redefine that because it's no longer man and woman all the time, right? The masculine aspect of the masculine of the family is the one who takes charge. Generally, the person makes the decisions, and you know what I'm saying, might even share decision making skills, because let's be real, masculine energy doesn't mean you have all the light, right? You're not all active. You just have a higher gradient of activity. And when I say gradient, this is what I mean. And we had our spectrum, we got light here and we got darkness here. Let's say, you know, on this right here, this is the highest gradient of light you can have, and this is the highest gradient of darkness that you have. But you know what I'm saying, your gradient, no matter where you are on this spectrum, you're going to have some form of light until you get to this aspect. Oops, let me slide this down. Until you get to the aspect down here, you're going to have some kind of gradient of light. You're somewhere on this scale, right? And it doesn't mean that you're, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't mean that, you know, you have to grow into a higher, it doesn't mean anything like that. No, that's just where you are. Okay. So with that being said, there are far more, when it comes to the masculine principle in the home, that's the one that generally makes the decisions, right? The one that makes the primary decisions, or most likely to make a decision on, or guide the family, right? That light representative guidance, right? Versus the feminine principle. The feminine principle is usually the darkness which follows where the light flows, right? As light is cast, a shadow is attached, right? So with the law of mentalism, it's the same concept, okay? When it comes to the abilities, right? You have a limitless amount of abilities. Your abilities are limited by your mind. It's limited by your passive energy, right? But it only has authority or power when you bring it into the light to create it. So for those of you who are not spiritual or not, you know, Christian, or, you know, whatever, this, you know, and you always wanted to read cards, you always wanted to do tarot, you always wanted to do astrology, you always wanted to do, you know, astronomy or whatever it may be, this is for you. You have to either define, take what, you know, give definition to the world around you and operate accordingly. But when you give definition, that doesn't mean you force that definition to fit everything. I mean, you don't force that to be like, you don't force it to be like, you don't force it. You let it reveal itself to you. That's the beauty of active and passive energy. When you are, there's a time to be passive. And when you are passive, you are receptive. When you are trying to get messages, or when messages are bringing itself, you're presenting itself to you, you have to tap into your passive energy. That's that feminine energy, passivity, okay? Now, when you are, now with the active energy, that's when you are creating your definition, where you're creating your language for the universe to read you by. Or the code that you and your, it's almost like a secret handshake that you have with the universe. If you see it in that terms, you have a secret handshake with the universe. You create it in the manner that you want to create it, right? So when you have this secret handshake that you create with the universe, that's you defining things. Every time I see, let's say, 2 dots next to each other, I'm going to equate that to, it's time for me to leave that area, right? So whenever I'm out and about and I'm just doing my thing, I mean, you know, after you use it so much, you start paying attention to double O's subconsciously. You don't think about it anymore. You just notice it, and it just reveals, or it leaks out at you, no matter where, or no matter where it's at. So the law of mentalism. Like I say, I like this law of mentalism thing. So I'm gonna go on to the next part of law of mentalism. So with all being mind and the mind being all, right? For those of you who actually do get into the work, right, into the arts, right, this is what the law of mentalism means, okay? You're going to do, at some point, you're going to create a pentacle, right? Now, this pentacle can be passive or it can be active. What does that mean? With active energy, you're calling on the light of an energy. You're calling on the light of an energy, right? So let's say if you want to invoke, let's say, fire, right? Or fire energy or fire magic or whatever it may be. Now, if you want that, remember I told you about how that thing, like how like when we twist it, hold on. How like when you twist that, let's do it like this. When you twist it like that circle, this right here, how it comes up and it comes down and up under the other one and back to where it originally started without, you know what I'm saying? Remember I told you about that? Your active principle is going to be the amplitude. It's going to be the one that goes over, right? That's the one that's going to take precedence over the one that's coming underneath here, okay? So with this active principle, that will be, you know, an invocation. You know, you do your invocation or whatever, and you're invoking the spirit that you want to overlap the other energies. You see what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to passive energies, there's some energies that you want to be in the background, essentially, right? That you want to be receptive to, that you want to gain information from, or that you want to relate information to you. You know what I'm saying? So you would invoke, or, you know, the passive aspect of it. Or you might be dealing with the energy that's already in the fire realm, and you don't want it to be fire. You don't want that fire energy there. So what are you going to do? You're going to either activate that fire to be passive, or you're going to banish that fire with active energy. You're going to take the active energy of that fire and you're going to banish it. You see what I'm saying? Or you're going to take that fire energy and shift it to being passive or being subservient to another energy. You see what I'm saying? This has always been incorrect for me, and I never knew why it was always so incorrect for me. It's because essentially it has this I'll have to touch upon that in a minute. I'll have to touch on that later in the lectures, okay? But when it comes to the law of mentalism, like I was saying before, our mind is so powerful that it could create anything that we wish. Everything originates in the mind. Everything, right? And that's a part of the principle of mentalism when it comes to, you know, spirituality. Everything starts in the mind. That's why you have books like Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? When you read books like that, when you take the Kabbalion, which is what the Kabbalion is, you know, what we're talking about now, essentially, because all of these principles comes from the Kabbalion, written by, you know, Hermes Trismegistus. The Kabbalion is where you will find the Hermetic principles. Right? That's where you'll find it. Now, once you understand the Kabbalion, you will be able to apply it to any book that you read. One of my favorite is, like I say, is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You get it. One of the rules in that was to begin with the ending in mind. Okay? You start at the end. Where do you want everything to go is where you want to start. And in order to do that, you need what? Mentalism. and then you work your way through that. You see what I'm saying? Now, with the law of mentalism, it's a let's see, you can apply that to anything that you read, anything that you touch. Once you come tapped into the 7 hermetic principles, your very touch on, no matter what it is, your touch itself will reveal information to you that escape others' minds. Because the reason why is because we're so preoccupied with work, our kids, our family, our lifestyles, and things of that nature. We're preoccupied with those things. We're preoccupied with those things for a reason, though. It's because ever since kindergarten, we are our minds is trained. See, that's another thing. When it comes to, like, the reason why the law of mentalism and how the law of mentalism have become so popular is because of school. Now, if you pay attention, everything that we were taught in school, we still use today. We still apply, right? When it comes to kindergarten, we learned about, the basics, right? We learned the basics. We met friends. We learned how to be a part of groups, the groups that we affiliate with. You know what I'm saying? It's all about identity. At first, it starts off in the home, right? With your personal identity. And then once you go to school, it's about how you start a part of your identity your identity grows into learning about interpersonal relationships, right? When you grow into that interpersonal relationship, you then define and are defined by others. And by that mutual exchange of definition, that will tell you what group you belong to, or what group you fit in the best, or which one you feel you fit in the best. And from there, you go on in life. And then that's something we still apply with today. When we go to a new job, we examine everybody, and then we find our niche, and then we place ourselves in that niche. You see what I'm saying? It is something we still apply to this day. That's mentalism. That's mentalism. This is something that we've been at war with for a long time. People in these days, we are always talking about how we want the world to be different, or how we want the world to, how we wish that the world was much more kinder and things of that nature. If you're going to make a kinder world, you're going to have to start with the schooling system. Why? Because the schooling system is a set of beliefs that we use the most, that we refer to the most. Who we were in school is who we generally cultivate in our life and become. There's every once in a while we do redefine ourselves and change ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are for the conscious people. But for those people who are unconscious, remain in that school paradigm. You see? So, with all that being said, I think I've talked enough. When it comes to mentalism, I would say the most important thing that you have to understand about mentalism, about the all being mind and that the mind is all, is that it's important for you to be like a child. You have to dream like a child. You have to question things like a child. That's why Jesus Christ said, the kingdom is open to the children, or something like that. Something about the children. If you want to go into the kingdom of God, you got to be like children. Children are receptive. Children don't have pride. Generally, they don't. All the things that we adults have, they generally don't have. It's like it's this innocence of wanting to learn, wanting to know, wanting to be who they are, and that's it. That's it. They're hungry, they go find something to eat. They're tired, they go find somewhere to go to sleep. When they, want to learn something, they get excited about it. When they're going somewhere that they love to go, they get excited about it. You can see it in their faces. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you're going to be overly optimistic about everything. No. With mentalism, it's all about finding your gradient, okay? When it comes to temperature, it's all about finding your gradient and sticking to your gradient. The truer you are to the gradient, that, you know what I'm saying, to your gradient, the easier it is for communication, for the universe to know what to expect of you when it communicates with you. You see what I'm saying? It's all about gradients. All magic, all spirituality, all religion, everything has to do with gradients. Do you know why? And for those Christians out there who are, you know, probably still watching, maybe not, maybe not. But in the Bible, we had a lot of prophets that did a lot of crimes and stuff, right? Do you know why God chose them? It's because they knew what gradient of light that they were, and they stayed true to that. Mentalism. They had mastered mentalism. All right, that's all I got for this lecture. I am going to do a reading in the next video. So, yeah, you can meet me over there. I wanted to share this part of my journey because this is something that I had learned. You know what I mean? So, yeah. All right. Love y'all all. See y'all later. Peace.